Hi Booktube, it's Roz with a tag for Tag Tuesday, and this is now let's get the name right, the Booktube Backstage Tag, and I was tagged by Steve Donahue, and he did it at the weekend, so as to he said try and get he'd like to have 100 people do this tag this Tuesday. He's such a nosy person, but we love it. And he says he'd like to hear us all answer all these questions. Now, I think it's a bit of an odd kind of booktube tag because it's not about books. I almost didn't do it when I realised that, there's not a single kind of mention of a book in the whole blessed thing. However, because Steve has asked me nicely, of course I'm going to do it. And actually, they're quite interesting questions, I suppose. It's about your other media interests, maybe. So, the questions, they're not called questions, they're called props. And the credit for this has to go to Rainier Books, and I will link to the original. I've forgotten the name of the booktuber, Rainier Books, but anyway, you probably know because you probably subscribe to them, as do I. But I've forgotten because, my brain is like a sieve these days. So, the props. Number one, what camera do you use for your videos? Well, I just use my phone, and it's a kind of Huawei, Chinese evil empire Huawei supposedly phone. It works really well and it was really good value, and the camera is great. So thank you, Huawei. I think I may have a go with filming on my tablet a bit more often in future, but I have like a kind of a bendy stand thing that I can stick the phone in to make it be the right height, so that works for me. Speaking about filming and being your own director, do you have a favourite film director? Now, Jason of Old Blues Chapter and Verse will be deeply, deeply disappointed in me, but I have to fess up here and say I don't care about film in the same way that I do about books. I don't think about film directors in the way that I think about authors. It's not that I don't see its value as an art form and a form of entertainment, but it's not in my heart in the same way. However, I did apply my mind to this, and one of the few directors where I'll think, oh, if that's a film by this person, I might well like to see it, as opposed to sort of barely paying attention to the director is, that would be Pedro Almodovar, and yeah, a film that has his name on it, I might be more tempted to try and see. So that's my choice. Question number 3. What microphone do you use and what program do you use to edit your videos? Okay, I do have a microphone that plugs into my phone because I thought my phone microphone might not be good enough, and it's a Comica something, but you can tell I don't care about the tech. I'm so sorry. It's bad, isn't it? But it's just not me. It's all about the books. But it seems to work. Yeah. And editing. Now, you will probably have noticed that I don't edit my videos. Now, that doesn't mean to say that I never want to edit a video. And I have tried a couple of different sort of bits of editing software and found them quite hard to use. I've learned to do a lot of things in my life. I have many skills, and I'm very much not a technophobe. I'm happy to learn new things, but the editing software that I've tried seems to be overly complex for my needs. So if any of you, dear lovely booktubers, can suggest a cheap or free editing software package that I could get that would be a bit more basic. It's like the ones I've got, it's got all these bells and whistles, and they don't actually, I want something that will just help me, chop it up a bit, add some words, simple stuff, not and doesn't need to be so sophisticated and take up so much like working memory on whatever device I have it on. So I hope for a good recommendation, please. And not something, as I say, not top of the range, something, yeah, real amateur level. That's what I want, amateur level. Now question number 4. out of nowhere almost, do you remember the first record you bought or received as a gift? Now, I grew up in a household that didn't really play records. I think that was in part because my father had a degree of hearing loss that meant he didn't really like having kind of music on in the background because then he wouldn't be able to hear himself think or hear what people were saying. Um, and so I became relatively, although I enjoyed music, listened to the radio and so on. I didn't buy a lot of records that early on. I think the first one that till my brother, one of my elder brothers, they were all much older than me, but the one who was 9 years older, who was nearest to me, he got us a decent record player, because he wanted to play his T-Rex and David Bowie records, which of course I also listened to. And I think the first thing that I actually bought for myself was an ABBA record. Um, Possibly ABBA's Greatest Hits, which was actually one of their early albums to come out in this country, because they'd had hits in Sweden. Um, yeah, so just not that long after Waterloo was a big hit, they brought out a sort of a hits album. There we go. Whew, dredging through the memories there. Although Steve says that we have a copy of the Goodies' Funky Gibbon single in the house that he thinks must have been mine because he knows he never bought it. So that's a bit of a mystery. Maybe I was given it as a present and couldn't actually play it, but just kept it. Who knows? Question number 5. Sorry to keep looking down to read them, but they're quite long questions. How do you prepare your videos? Do you make talking points, a detailed script, or just go talking? Well, bit of a mix. Generally, I would say what I do is I'll make a list of sort of prompts of things that I want to remember. So I kind of give it a bit of structure and any key things like names and so on. So you'll see me looking down to kind of think, oh, what's that word or that name or that date, but I don't script things. Oh, I couldn't possibly. And something like this, then I'll just talk. Actually, one of the things that I do, this is what I do to prepare when I think about it, is when I'm out running or walking, I'll kind of go through in my head what I might say so that it kind of takes a bit of a form in my mind, and yeah, so it's not like I just switch on and go for it. I have played it out in my mind a bit first, I suppose. Running's really good for that. Uh, Question number 6. TV shows have become the thing of our time, have they? I suppose so. Game of Thrones, Stranger Things, Netflix, HBO, and Amazon. What is or are your favourite TV shows ever? Name a maximum of 3. Now, again, I don't feel about television programmes, she says, we call shows here in English, in the same way that I feel about books. But there have been there have been some series, and I think HBO are probably responsible for most of them. I don't know, that have extended series that have almost brought to television something of the same quality that I would get from a book. You know, things like The Sopranos of the world. Oh, I'm not even supposed to mention 3 things, so I mustn't mention that. But the one of that kind that springs to mind as being a real favourite is Deadwood, and it's got the richness of, I don't know, a Dickens novel, hasn't it? And it's in my mind at the moment because, and I hope Americans won't be offended by this, I don't think they will. I've been thinking, obviously, as we all have, about one of the events in America recently, and there's some of what happens seems sort of so like almost inexplicable to me from a sort of British perspective. And then I was thinking about Deadwood, and it just, I guess it reminded me how the United States as one country with one kind of rule of law and government across the whole of it, um, is a relatively, it's relatively young or new. You know, it's not the kind of events that you see in Deadwood are not that far off. When you know, in a way, in many ways, the theme of the series is how kind of law and order is brought to this sort of frontier settlement that was, pushing out Native Americans, taking over, kind of growing from nothing into a town. And I suppose if I thinking about watching that maybe helps me understand why people would think that it was okay to all kind of just come and burst in on the Capitol and say, "Ooh, we're going to take this back somehow." Yeah. So that's why I picked that one. Couple of others. In British terms, I think the series that probably similarly had that kind of novel-like quality for me would be Our Friends in the North. I can think of others, but yeah, that one that was good. Um, and then my third choice has to be now on a Saturday evening. A channel we have here, which I'm sure British booktubers will love like I do, is BBC Four. It's like a channel that's set up to show things that I like. It's wonderful. I'm really worried that it will disappear soon because there won't be enough people watching it. But one of the things they do on a Saturday night is they show kind of like foreign language drama series, quite often crime, so Scandinois, things like The Bridge and so on. And my favourite at the moment, because it's on at the moment, and this is the very last series of it, is French one. In French is Engrenage. In the English version, it's called Spiral, and it's like a police drama set in Paris, and it's spot on as far as I'm concerned. Okay, question number 7. What kind of booktube videos do you prefer to watch and why? Reviews, wrap-ups, vlogs, book hauls, tag videos, or what? Now, I like a lot of different things on booktube, but in many ways it's the person and the books they talk about rather than the particular type of video that attracts me, if that makes sense. Is sort of, yeah, their enthusiasm or the chemistry, yeah, or the kinds of things they read. Yeah, I do really value proper reviews very much. I get ideas of things that I want to read from those, but I quite enjoy the sort of mini reviews that you get in a wrap up. I'm probably less interested in TBRs, and not very interested in the sort of mail haul sort of thing. But then sometimes people surprise me by doing really, yeah, really fun ones of those. So there's nothing that I'd say, oh, I definitely won't watch that. I'm not wild about shelf tours, but then, Matthew Maybury Book Club's doing one at the moment that is delightful. And when, Jason Has Books has done similar things that, yeah, that's good. And you could argue that Steve's Penguin Classic a Day is a bookshelf tour of a sort. So yeah, there's no kind of no for me, I guess. But I like things that actually, and I would say, I like things that talk about books. But then I love things like Brian at Bookish doing his Saturday hodgepodge when he might talk about politics as much as books. So yeah, a bit of everything, I suppose. And then last question. Watching TV was probably a part of all our childhoods. Yeah, that's true. These years it's become less popular. Yes, like children and young people hardly watch any these days, do they? What kind of media user are you? Okay, I I'm I'm an omnivorous media user. I still like print. I on a Saturday and a Sunday I read a print newspaper. I know lots of people don't anymore, but the Saturday Guardian and then the Sunday one, which is the Observer. I really enjoy that. I like their book reviews. I like their political content. I listen to the radio. I used to be a huge Radio 4 listener. That was like the soundtrack of my life. Interestingly, BookTube pushed that out a bit because whereas I might have sort of, I don't know, done chores listening to Radio 4, now I might listen to BookTube videos instead. Um, I do, I do watch TV still because this is interesting. It's a communal activity for me. So between the hours of about 9 and 11 each evening, I will sit with other members of my household and watch things, so that we spend a bit of time together. And it might be that I'd actually rather be reading a book, but that's not the point. The point is to do something that we can talk about and share, and yeah. But these days, of course, we're also all kind of like grazing the internet or social media at the same time. And yes, it's almost like having television gives a bit of focus that stops us from all just existing in our separate little kind of device-led bubbles. So there we go. Now, I'm supposed to try and tag a load of people, and uh, you know that one about do you prepare your videos? Well, normally I prepare by for tag videos. I prepare by making a list of people I might tag, and I completely forgot to do that this time. So off the top of my head, I'm going to tag the people I've already mentioned in this video, which is Jason of Booktube Chapter and Verse, Brian of Bookish, and Matthew of Maybury Book Club. I'm going to tag Courtney Ferreter because I'm chatting with her at the moment about some things, and Hannah because I'm always chatting to her, and said 8. Dear lovely Albert, but I suspect she won't do it, so that's probably a pointless one, but nevertheless. Margaret Pinard, because she likes a tag, I think, these days, and so and she's I just talking about her reminds me to say that she's planning a March of the Moderns thing in March about reading books between sort of 1901 and 1945, which I found quite appealing, and it's good to plan these things ahead a bit, isn't it? Oh, the other kind of like what would you say, sort of readathon thing that I want to mention is done, and that will be the last two people that I tag is Josna of Josna's Bookscapades and Books and Key, and they're doing a TBR tackle readathon in February. So there's one for February for you, and the idea is that you read books in February that are all from your TBR that you've been meaning to read, which is like a godsend of a readathon, isn't it? I'm sure we'll all want to do that. So I tag them too, and but I say go and visit and have a look at their really sensible idea for a February readathon with 9 different categories, so everybody could get a few things off their TBR by doing that. And so that was 8, and have a happy week, everybody.